Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. A bitch is back talking about books. I'm so excited about what we're going to talk about today because I didn't find it, but I read this amazing series over this past week, and it is just such a gem, and it's just right up my alley, and I recommend anybody read this. The book series that I'm talking about is called the MINDF CK series. I've only heard about this through TikTok. If you have a TikTok, if you know about TikTok, etc., etc., I learned about the series through Aven's books. Love her, love her. She's like a book talker. She talked about this book series and said that she was obsessed with it, and I said, I have to read it. The queen has spoken and she said it's good, so I have to read it. And so I read this series and I absolutely devoured it, at least after book 3. It's a 5-part series, and I will say that the first 2 I wasn't really invested in the characters as much, but book 3, 4, and 5, the plot thickens and it's just action-packed. Like, it just does not stop. And you just cannot stop reading it after that. It is 5 books. Which seems intimidating, but they're all novellas. They're around 100 pages each, or probably less, to be honest. And you can basically read the whole series as one book. That's how I saw it. The MINDF CK series is basically one book split up into 5 parts. And it was really good. It is a romance, but I honestly think the romance, to be honest, like, it's more of a mystery, crime, action book than it is a romance per se. I think romance is just like one of the elements in it, but we can talk about that later. It is really, really dark. There's a lot of triggers in this. If you are triggered by anything related to sexual violence, this is probably not the series for you. It is very gruesome, very graphic, and deals with a lot of like horrible things that I just did not know humanity was capable of, first of all. And second of all, how does this author come up with these horrible things? Like, oh my god, some of the stuff that these poor people are put through is just so, like, oh my god. Like, this book series is basically a Criminal Minds mashed with Kill Bill revenge plot type of situation with added elements of horror and like star-crossed lovers romance. If you don't know what the book is about, it follows Lana Myers, who is a serial killer. She has been on like a little killing spree and has come up with this plan that she's created with her partner in crime for around 10 years. Something bad happened to her in her past, and I don't want to spoil anything. It gets revealed throughout the series. One day, she goes to a coffee shop, just chilling, drinking her coffee. She's very closed off, doesn't really let anyone into her life, and meets Logan Bennett, who kind of pushes himself into her life and opens her up, and Logan is an FBI agent. Logan Bennett and Lana Myers fall in love, even though Logan doesn't know that the serial killer, because he's in the FBI, he studies serial killings and the behaviors of serial killers, so that's his job. And his case that he's working on is on Lana's case, on Lana's serial killings. So he doesn't realize that the girl he is dating is a serial killer. And tensions arise, and that is where we begin the story. And throughout the whole series, it kind of goes into Lana's past, what happened to her, but not only to her, to the people around her. It goes into her home life and her hometown, and yeah, that is the series. I don't want to spoil it more than that. I gave it like a 4.85 out of 5 just because there was a couple elements that I didn't really like and kind of frustrated me about this series. I thought it was written really, really well. I loved it, but the thing is that the chemistry between Logan and Lana wasn't really developed much, in my opinion. So by the time you get to the ending 2 or 3 books, which the plot is so good and moves so fast, you stay for the plot. Not so much the characters, but if you are a mystery fan and you love to unravel these mysteries, I think that this plot was excellent in that sense. But you don't really stay for the romance and the characters, at least in my opinion. The way that Lana and Logan's relationship start was like general. It didn't feel very out of this world kind of romance. It was very sexual. But the thing is that I've read so many books where the romance is basically sexual, but at least the smut was like good in those. And the chemistry is built between those scenes of smut. But the smut in this one was very like a page. Oh, they just do it. And it's in like the same positions, you know, and it's like whatever. So you don't really develop that chemistry between the characters through the smut either. So it was like they were saying that they loved each other and they had these reasons. Lana was saying like, oh, he makes me feel alive again. And he's like a good person. And I was just like, okay, you say that, but like, I don't know, I just want to feel it more. Like, I want to like really feel it. But anyways, I love the topics that they talk about this, how justice isn't law and law isn't justice. A lot of times, law is corrupt. They talk about that a lot in the book. I think there's one line that was super, super like, I was like, preach author, you preach author, because it's so, it just makes so much sense. There's this whole thing about morality, and I love how they talk about morally gray. And when you think of FBI, you think, oh, they're like supposed to be on your side, they're good people. So Logan is part of the FBI. Logan has a very black and white view of justice, thinks let's take it into the law's hands. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner, even though when you learn about Lana's past, you kind of learn as well that the law was not on her side. The law can be corrupt, and sometimes monsters stay. Sometimes they don't get punished. Lana tries to open Logan's eyes to the grayness of what's of right and wrong. And there's a line that goes, why? Do you treat your military like monsters? Do you stare at your own reflection with such disdain? Because I've seen your file about Logan. You shot and killed 13 serial killers since your career began. Those were real monsters, just like the men Lana has dispatched. And it's so true. Like, cops kill people all of the time. It's under the guise that it's for protection, right? Or it's okay because it's under the law that they are killing, and the people that they're killing are these monsters. Lana, as a serial killer, is doing the same thing. She's killing the monsters of the world, and it gives you this like sort of sense of what, because a government says that it's right, now you think it's righteous, even though you are doing the exact same thing that I am doing, aka that Lana is doing. And I was like, girl, you are so right! Like, this book was a real mindfuck. There is twists and turns and mysteries until the very, very end. I don't want to spoil it though. That's the thing. Like, I want to talk about this book, but I don't want to spoil it. I just say read it. It's super action-packed. It's great. Devoured it. Absolutely devoured it. There's a couple quotes about what being a romantic is, and it's a revenge plot, right? Lana's killing all of these guys because she wants to get revenge on something that happened in her past, but not only to her, to other people. So she's getting justice not only for herself, but for other people. And I love this, like, they always bring up quotes about being a romantic and saying that I'm killing people, but it's just because I'm a romantic. Like, this is how I show my love. In my head, every time they had these quotes about romance and being a romantic like that, I kept thinking about Vision's quote to Wanda, what is grief if not love persevering? I was like, this shit is exactly some Vision type-esque quote, but I was here for it. I ate it up. The mystery elements and the big reveal at the end, because there's, you know, there's the action, but there's also a lot of the mystery about like what's really going on in this town. And there's not just, Lana isn't the only killer in this book. there's many killers, and there were serial killers 10 years ago in the town Lana grew up. It kind of reveals, so there's this whole mystery about what happened in this town 10 years ago and who this other serial killer was 10 years ago. You'll get what I'm talking about if you read the book. And then the actual reveal of this mystery I thought was really well done. I was shocked, but in a way that wasn't annoying. They didn't leave as many clues to it, where when you find out you're like, oh my god, it was so obvious. Like, they should have left a little bit more clues so that you could get that, because it kind of did feel like it came out of nowhere a little bit. But I really liked this reveal, and it just made the whole book even more twisted. This book was twisted as hell. This book was evil, and I loved it. I don't know why. The characterization, though, that's the one thing I do criticize about this book, is that the character introductions weren't very good. Like, it took me a while to actually ingrain in my memory who each character was, because there's so many names that they were throwing out. The sheriff, Kyle, a detective named, see, I don't even know his name. There was a detective named Leonard, and I said, in my head, I was like, what happened to Craig? Who the hell is this Leonard guy? Who is this guy? Where is he coming from? And there's just so many of those instances where they're talking about people I just know nothing about, and I don't know who they are in the story. Like, this happens many times, and it takes me a while to actually figure out who they're talking about. So I think that's the one thing I do say I gave it a little bit lower, because they should have done a little bit better with the character introductions and letting us actually know who we're talking about, because this has so much plot in it. We have to not be confused about who we're talking about, you know? I didn't care for the main romance of this story, like Lana and Logan's. I mean, I did care by the end. I really loved them by the end. The chemistry just wasn't there that much, but it didn't matter in the end because I thought it worked really well for the plot anyways. But there is a secondary romance that I won't give away. It is kind of obvious that develops, and I cared more for that romance than I did the main romance, which I thought says a lot, you know? Yeah. Please, if you've never heard of this book, never read this book series, read it. Let me know your thoughts if you've ever read it. Comment below your thoughts. I gave it a 4.85 out of 5. It was amazing, beautiful, and this author, this book was twisted, and the author is like a genius in the most twisted way. Like, that's all I can say about it. And speaking of twisted, that is the next book that I'm reading, is Twisted Hate. So get ready for that review, because I think it's gonna be good, to be honest. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please read this book. I think it was really good. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.